That's right, friends. Today's the day. Pac-Man turns 40. He's a middle-aged man now. Can you believe it? He's the kind of person that, he'll make a lot of bad jokes with his kids and lay in bed all day and probably have some sort of alcohol problem. Or maybe not, because Pac-Man's actually a good character. But let's just get into the game and we'll talk more about the, actually, excuse me, this is Puck-Man, not Pac-Man. Puck-Man, different game. But, the sound might be a bit too loud. Oh, it's probably fine. So, Pac-Man, or Puck-Man, is a game that I and everyone else probably really loves. It's a great game, fantastic game even. It's one of the masterpieces of the arcade game era of the 80s and late 70s. There's not really a lot to say about it, really. I just wanted to play it because, god damn it, today's this game's 40th anniversary. 40 years is a long time. And Pac-Man, I believe, is the first video game franchise to turn 40, as it was the first video game franchise, really, to be a franchise, to have a marketable character. What? That counted? This game, I don't know. I'm not too good at it. I'm not good at these maze games, really. I'm really bad at them, but, I love them. They're fun. They're a lot of fun. Yeah, Pac-Man's probably the first video game character to really exist at all. He was the first to be a recognizable character and to have a franchise that existed outside of video games. I mean, there was stuff like Space Invaders. They had stuff like the Space Invaders Pinball Machine. There was like a Space Invaders Part 2, which was, I guess, kind of counts, but like also Space Invaders didn't really have that many exciting characters until like later on, like the remake. I couldn't. See, I don't play this game very often, because I can tell I'm not very good at it. But, like, Pac-Man right out the door had, like, a good cast of recognizable characters. And that's kind of what set it apart from everything else at the time, but I'm sure you already know this if you're a gaming historian. Like Mr. Norman Caruso, or Pro Jared. This game is just great. It's just a lot of fun. And, there you go, extra life. It's just so simple, as well. Like, it's like, but at times I feel like its simplicity can be a bit of a bad thing. Not really a bad thing, but like, at the same time, this game is nearly perfect, but like, it has a couple flaws. I guess I'm kind of spoiled by later Pac-Man games, so like, perfect the formula even more than original Pac-Man did. But I mean, it's still really good. I'd say Pac-Man, OG Pac-Man, would probably still like a 9 out of 10 game for me, at least. Because Pac-Man is just so simple, so timeless. It's just, yes, you can perfect it, and it has been perfected before, but like, there's definitely some charm in just the OG original Pac-Man. And it's still definitely a great game. And here's that first animated sequence. Now, to spice things up for today, we're not going to be doing just one version of Pac-Man. No, just one game only. We're not going to do that. We're going to go over Pac-Man's entire console history and go over every single home port of Pac-Man that I can emulate. I'm going to be playing each port for about a minute, because if I did it any longer, this video would be like an hour long. I don't want it to be an hour long. We're just going to play each one, starting off with probably the first one and the most infamous one, the Atari 2600 port of Pac-Man. Now, this version of Pac-Man is not a good version. It's not even an average version of Pac-Man. It's a pretty terrible port of Pac-Man. However, this was probably the first console port of the game, which gives it some historical value. And given its, long, convoluted, and, treacherous development history, all the work that Todd Fry, the programmer, had to go through to actually get Pac-Man to even function on the Atari, with his limited resources at the time. And, you know, Atari's dumbass rules and his own kind of shortcomings as a programmer and his own limitations, you know. He wanted the game to have 2 players, which is fine, but ultimately took up a lot of space. The game could not have a black background like the arcade game due to some policy at Atari where only space games could have black backgrounds. And the whole thing was only completed in, I believe, like about a few months or so, a few weeks or whatever. Few weeks, few months, I don't know. It was not a very long time, though. And with how complicated making these old games was, I mean, trying to actually program them out and make them, you know, trying to program it all in assembly language, I mean, it's not easy for sure. I've never done it, but I can definitely tell by just going on Google, looking up assembly language. I mean, you can see that I don't even know any of it. But for the time, it's okay. I can't really call it a decent version of Pac-Man. Even it's not even like close. It's not Pac-Man, but if you separate it as its own thing and acknowledge that, you know, for the time, this is probably pretty impressive. Actually, no, not for the time. It was not impressive at all. What I'm saying is that if you take into consideration the what am I trying to say here? If you take into consideration the effort that the programmer put into this game and all the limitations that he had to deal with, it's fine. People, I think even at the time this game was considered pretty terrible, like even back then, people hated it. I mean, like, it was like, a lot of people ended up returning their copies of it, but it still was a pretty big seller. But the game, the collision detection is not very good, the controls are not very good, the sounds are very weak, all the graphics are just kind of a bit icky. The ghosts have about as much difference in coloration as Smarties do, but you know, for what it is, it's not even really passable, but like, I don't know. It's interesting, we'll say that. If you want to sound nice while also being like critical, just call things interesting. Then people will be fine. Just call everything interesting. And that's the best way to say things. Moving up a generation, we have the Atari 5200 version of Pac-Man. Well, I guess this is part of the same generation, but, you know, around that, you know, it's an up a system. That's something else, don't mind that. So both the 5200 and Atari Computer ports of Pac-Man are pretty much the same game. Just, you know, one's on a computer, one's on a console. But they're both the same game. They were both made on cartridges, so, you know, they're both cartridge games. But you cannot play Atari Computer games on the 5200 or vice versa. So that's kind of shitty. But it's going to be all good. Now, right away, you can tell this is a vast improvement over the Atari 2600 version of Pac-Man. The game looks much closer to the actual arcade game. The sounds are pretty good. The gameplay, it just plays a lot better. It's more arcade accurate. It's just much more enjoyable. It's much more like an actual Pac-Man experience. You have actual fruits as well. The fruits look pretty good. It just plays much better than the nightmare that was the Atari 2600 port of Pac-Man. I think at the time it was a bit too late, though. People were so upset with, you know, Atari 2600 and like the amount of crappy software that was being made for it that they just didn't really care, which is understandable. There was a lot of really bad Atari games and ports that were made, but you know, I am not good at this game. If the Atari 2600 port was closer to this, then people would probably be, you know, not as upset. They'd probably be pretty happy about it, I'd say. I mean, I would be happy if I had it. If it was closer to this. In fact, there even is a Pac-Man 4K homebrew that looks pretty similar to this. Except it's on, of course, the VCS/2600. And it's pretty good. In fact, I might play that afterwards and show it off a little bit. Because I can't play this game for shit. If you take a quick look at the at the Pac-Man 4K homebrew. The music is not good, but the gameplay is far, far better. The game is not so slow, the sound effects are all there. It's just a much better Pac-Man experience on the 2600. And this isn't even the best one, there's an even better 8K version as well. Which I think actually might have cutscenes as well. This is Pac-Man 8K. The sound's not any better, but like... Well, actually, yeah, the pellets are better sounding, but like... Of course, back then, you wouldn't get anything close to this. With the limited resources, but with a little bit more memory, maybe, and a bit more, you know... A bit more freedom with how to make the game. It's a bit more development time, possibly. You could get something pretty good like this. You could have got something that would be closer to like the Atari computer version of Pac-Man. This one is just, I mean, you can tell right away, it's just obviously way better. It's like there's not even a contest, really. Now, the 7800, Atari's next console, didn't really have an official Pac-Man port. However, there are two different homebrew ports on two different homebrew collections. The first version is the 2006 Pac-Man Collection version. This is by Pac-Man Plus, aka Bob DeCrescenzo. You all know how much I love Bob. He does some great work. And this is one of his first or earlier homebrew projects. Again, this was like, I was like pretty young when this game came out. So like I was only like a little child. There's a bunch of different options as well. You can do fast mode. You can change it to 3 or 5 lives. Cherries, strawberry, orange 2. You could do all sorts of different options, even like a Galaxian, Bell, Key. Lots of different options you can choose from. And of course 2 players, 1 player, plus mode. And this uses the Pokey sound if you have an XM expansion module, or you have the Pokey version with, you know, either the Pokey 1 or like a Pokey chip like a Ball Blazer cartridge. You know, this is a pretty arcade-accurate version of Pac-Man for the 7800. I believe the AI is all the same, pretty much. I'm pretty sure actually Bob made sure the AI was like spot on to the arcade game, so that's all good. The sound is really good. The Pokey just sounds great. The Pokey just can pull off some really amazing things. And the game, you know, the pixels are, you know, it's using the wider pixel, so it's a bit chunky, but it's all very colorful. It all looks like Pac-Man. It's all pretty good. This is a great version of Pac-Man. And it also includes a bunch of other great games like Pac-Man Plus, Miss Pac-Man, Hangly Man, some other weird Pac-Man hacks and stuff. It's got some cool little ROM hacks and stuff as well, so this is a great collection to get. And just today, Bob DeCrescenzo, the boy, did it again. To celebrate Pac-Man's 40th anniversary, Bob DeCrescenzo released the Pac-Man Collection XM Enhanced version. This is the final version of the game. I'm pretty sure it's not on cartridge yet, but you can emulate it and play it as, you know, you would normally would on like a console or whatever. You can just play it right there. And again, it has Miss Pac-Man. It has some various game modes, but well, you can go just do regular Pac-Man. And again, it's just a fantastic version. The graphics are much higher res. It has the addition of YM sound. I think it's using the YM2151 sound, so it's using that cool like FM synth sound, which sounds really good. The eyes, one little thing to note about this, I'll make a little point about. So I asked about this to Bob on the actual Card Age forum when he's making this. I was kind of wondering about why the eyes have like little like weird dots in them. So with this graphics mode, this is I think the 320 mode, so it's 320 pixels wide, which is why the resolution is so good and so arcade accurate. It looks like the arcade game, except for some of the colors. The colors are a bit off. And the reason why is because one of the colors is sort of like a white color for the eyes. Another color needs to be touching it for it to activate. It can't be the same color or like a transparency. It has to be a different, unique color for it to actually activate and show up. So the ghost's eyes have these like little like, it's almost like, it's like a bit, there's a little bit of like dithering almost to make the white actually appear in the game. But if you play this on like a CRT or like, you know, with like a TV filter, you won't really notice it at all. It's only if you play it like, if you play it like how you normally play it on emulator, you'll definitely see it, but it's not a big deal at all. Of course, you know, I think I might, you know, prefer having more color in games. Usually I'm bigger on color than like resolution, but this is still fantastic. And the FM sound is really great too. It sounds not quite like the Namco waveforms, but it's a pretty good approximation of them, and it's pretty surreal hearing this kind of sound on a 7800 game even, but it sounds really good, it looks really good, it plays really good. You know, it's Pac-Man, and again, this has some other great games on it. It even has a random maze generator, which is pretty cool. Yes, you can actually randomly generate mazes on this one. So yeah, great package. The Commodore computers also have their own versions of Pac-Man. Now, there was a game by, I think, HAL Laboratory called Jelly Monsters that was a pretty good Pac-Man clone, but not an official port. It wasn't like Pac-Man branded or anything, so I'm not really gonna count that. But if you want to go find it out for yourself, it's out there, so you can go play it and take a look at it. I just said before how like TV filters can help, like, you know, make certain things, you know, not look as ugly. But in this case, it just looks bad. I just want to see like crystal clear text. I don't want to have like shitty scan lines in front of everything. I don't like TV filters normally. But I'm too lazy to turn it off, so we're just gonna play it and just enjoy it for the best we can. So this is Vic-20 Pac-Man. This is what it looks like. You notice one thing immediately. It's very jumpy when Pac-Man turns around corners. You'll notice this. He like kind of like just like. It's like a whole square is jumped over. It's really strange, but I mean, it's Pac-Man. It's not a terrible version of the game. It's pretty, well, that's not cool. It's playable. You already had your music tutorial. You can't do it again. It's playable for what it is. The maze is very compromised, very squished, but hey, it has the free bonuses, which is pretty cool. The game kind of like freaks out sometimes. You kind of see like pellets are gone a lot, and like sometimes you'll see like new pellets being created. It's very strange. But you know, it's Pac-Man. It's such a goofy version of Pac-Man, though. I kind of love it, honestly. It's like so just bizarre, but like it's honestly pretty. It's, I don't know. It's cute. We'll call it. It's cute. We'll say that. That's the strawberry, I guess. Looks like a heart almost. Now, the Commodore 64 version of Pac-Man is, again, a lot like the Atari 8-bit version. It's pretty good. The SID sounds are pretty decent. Not as good as the Pokey, in my opinion, for this game. I usually prefer SID for music, but in this case, the Pokey does Pac-Man a bit more justice, but still pretty good sounding. And the game looks, you know, it just looks much more Pac-Man than like the Atari 2600 version did. It just looks much better, it plays much better. It's a much better home Pac-Man experience, really. Like, what can you say? This is a game that you find on cartridge. Usually, a lot of this would be a cartridge game you'd find normally. A lot of Commodore games came on cartridges, especially like the US had a lot of cartridge releases. There's also a lot of games on tape and like disc, mostly in like Europe, because they had a lot of like cassette-based games there. And cartridges were expensive, so they just didn't really have many cartridge games there, but I mean, they still exist somewhat. But normally for cartridge games, it'd be like these early arcade ports, you get like a lot of cartridge releases. You know, like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man and Galaxian and Dig Dug and all those old classics. they'd get cartridge conversions. And maybe later on they get like disc releases as like a budget game or something or whatever. Maybe. I don't know. Our last computer game, I think, this should be the last one, is the MSX version of Pac-Man. This emulator is very interesting. This is the one called Blue MSX. It's very interesting. It's almost like a I don't know. You have like these like stereo dials almost. It's kind of strange, but it's cool. I'm pretty sure Joel talked about this too when Joel did like his MSX streams. It's interesting, but it's nice. Now, one thing you'll notice is that this is very similar to the NES version of Pac-Man. In fact, the NES version is a direct port of this MSX version. The sounds are very similar. The graphics are very similar. It's the same sort of like format for everything. The NES version is the MSX version, but a bit better, pretty much. This one's pretty good too. It's a good port of Pac-Man, but I don't know, a bit slow in my opinion. It could have been a bit faster, I think. It's good, but just not my favorite. And again, the graphics, all of it's one color stuff. I mean, I think MSX could have done more, but I think they had some weird limitations or something. I don't know the MSX limitations that well, but like they could have maybe done something a bit better with the graphics. Maybe had like some maybe layer on some sprites to create more colors. I don't know how that would work. Maybe I'm not really sure, but I don't know. Oh man, are you getting tired of Pac-Man yet? I kind of am. I've been going for like 30 minutes now. This video is not going to be 30 minutes, I don't think, at least not at this point, but man, I've been going for a long time. I put in a lot of Pac-Man. Moving on to the Intellivision version of Pac-Man. Yes, Pac-Man got an Intellivision port. Can you believe it, fellas? Well, this hurts. Nice meme. Okay, I finally got this thing to work. Here we go. We can now play Pac-Man Intellivision. I think. Yes! Yes! Pac-Man! But it's on the Intellivision! Wait, hold on. Oh, what the? Wait. Okay, now it works. Okay. Now I can play Pac-Man as God intended. Apparently, this is an analog controller. I did not know that. I guess I should have known because it's a disc, but this is Pac-Man for the Intellivision. And it's, I don't know. I like this version a lot because it's just so different. It's like, not like any other Pac-Man port out there. It's like just very, I don't know. The colors are kind of muted. The mace is very like squished. But it plays great. It sounds great. It's, you know, still Pac-Man. It looks pretty decent for the hardware. This ain't bad. It really is not bad at all. It's pretty good. But just, you know, very, just unique. That's the best way to describe this one, unique. Again, if you want to be nice, but also, like, sound fancy and critical, just call things unique. Or interesting. Or, like, you know, distinct. There you go. Was all that work really worth it, though? Not really. Well, guess what? Now I gotta go get a ColecoVision emulator to play ColecoVision Pac-Man. This is gonna be a great video, I promise. This is gonna be all worth it in the end. Hey guys, I hate Pac-Man. You wanna play Centipede instead? Wow, that's really fancy fizzle-in transition. Wow, you're really impressing us, Atari. What is that? Is it like Depression Pac-Man? What is this? It's so slow. Why are the ghosts so fucking pissed off? Collision detection much? I guess it's okay. This is I should make it clear, this was a prototype. This never actually was released. So you never could buy this in stores. It was a prototype only. But, I mean, it obviously had some promise, but it's just not my favorite version of Pac-Man. It's just I don't know about this one, man. It's okay. The coolest part is that little fizzle out thing, transition. That's actually pretty cool. That's a cool effect. But other than that, it's just, I don't know, it sure is a Pac-Man. What the hell was that? But don't worry, we have the next ColecoVision port. This is the Pac-Man Collection, released in 2008 by Opcode Games, I believe. And you can listen right here. This opening theme song is actually a rendition of Pac-Man Fever, which is pretty cool. Very slow rendition, probably because of my emulator setup, but sounds pretty good. In fact, maybe later I'll get like a nice clean recording of this and upload it somewhere, maybe. But we're gonna actually play the game right now. Again, it's very slow, and it's not the greatest sound, but this is a much more arcade-accurate port of Pac-Man, at least. This is very loud for me. This is hurting my ears. It's pretty good, still. I think it's a pretty great port. Again, Opco Games did a fantastic job. This also has Miss Pac-Man as well. I think that's Pac-Man Plus. It's like a little bonus hidden game. But it's just so loud. I don't want to play this anymore. I was gonna probably destroy one of my eardrums. No more. I'm good. Pac-Man on NES? You heard it here, folks. You didn't think this ever happened, but, well, here it is. Ah, it's so much more quiet. You can just tell by the sounds alone, it's very much like the, MSX port of Pac-Man. Actually, let me try and, raise the sound a little bit here. Okay, now it's still very quiet. What is that all about? Okay, figured out the problem. Apparently, I was messing with my volume mixer, and when I did that, I turned down my OBS volume, which also turns down the volume of the game in the recording, so that's why it couldn't be picked up, but now it's fine, I think. As I was saying, it's very similar to the MSX version of Pac-Man, this port. As far as interesting trivia goes, this was released 3 times. Tangerine originally released as a gray cartridge, but then they released as a black cartridge to combat Nintendo and their harsh licensing policies and all that shit. Then in '93, yes, '93, 2 years after the SNES was already on the market, Namco decided, let's make some NES games and publish Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man when everyone else had already moved on to the SNES. Great work, guys. But, it's a good version. I do like this one a lot. It's a lot of fun, but, again, a bit slow. Probably better than the MSX version, though, but, I mean, there's obviously better ways to play it, aren't there? Hey, guys. If Pac-Man's so great, oh, fuck. Pac-Man 2 has a version of original arcade Pac-Man in it. And you can, oh my god, that's very loud. I hope you guys aren't put off by the volume. I hope it's not super, super loud. Yes, it is Pac-Man. This is Pac-Man on the Super Nintendo. This is an official, of course, version. It's a little minigame in Pac-Man 2. What can I say about it? It's NES Pac-Man, but with some fancier graphics, but why? I don't need to play this anymore, do I? You know what it is. Sounds like being recorded a bathroom. Don't worry, we have only a couple more versions left to go, but I'm getting a bit tired. But we're almost there. We're almost there. Yes, even the humble Game Boy got a Pac-Man port. And it's... okay, it might not be that bad. It's Pac-Man, except it's in black and white, and all the ghosts look the same, so you can't tell which patterns they are, or which ones they have. So you can't tell which ghost is who, and it's not very good. Again, very similar to, like, the NES Pac-Man, pretty much. It's very, like, similar to that. It's fine, it's whatever, it's okay enough, but, like, I don't really care, honestly. There's also the special color version, which is the same game, except now it's in color and much better. So that's good, I guess. And I can actually see the different colors they go. So if you want to play Pac-Man on the Game Boy, play this version, I guess. The Game Boy Color. This one's pretty good. It is very colorful, which is nice. And the graphics are pretty good. Digital Eclipse. Oh, is there no sound? Cool. Oh, no, there is sound. This game sure has sound. This is the version on Namco Museum 50th Anniversary for Game Boy Advance. I think there's one. I think the one on Pac-Man Collection is a bit better, but this one I'm just playing because it's the one I have. I don't have Pac-Man Collection for Game Boy Advance. I just have the ROM of it, so you know what? I don't really care enough to go get it. It's like Pac-Man, but like you're having a seizure while you play it. Actually, I changed my mind. I got the Pac-Man Collection as well. Ooh, yeah. Purple elephant on the TV with the black background and the white text and the yellow Comic Sans and the Pac-Man Collection in red and white logo text. So we got Pac-Man Arrangement, Pac-Man, Pac-Attack, and Pac-Mania. So this collection I think is pretty good actually. I think it's like the 9th best-selling Game Boy Advance game, which is pretty good. But we're just gonna play full screen, or no, scroll Pac-Man actually. As you can tell, this one's a way better version of Pac-Man. It sounds much better. The scrolling's not that bad, I think. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, I hate scrolling in Pac-Man, but this one is not. It pulls off well. You see a good amount of the maze. You know, it's only split by like 2 different halves, so it's fine. But yeah, it's good. I'm not gonna do the PS1 port because I already did that in Namco Museum itself. I'm not gonna do the PS2 or GameCube ports because they're pretty much just arcade accurate ports, not really that exciting. There is one more port that I'm gonna show off, and that's the DS port of Pac-Man. I'm mainly doing just to see how recording DS games would even look, but this is what. Oh my goodness, this is the DS recording setup. This is the horizontal mode. This might actually be a bit better. You might prefer this. But Pac-Man was featured in the Namco Museum DS collection. And it's one of my favorite Namco Museums for sure. It's got some great emulation. It's got some great extras. It's got a decent selection of games. It's a nice version of Namco Museum. Really, the only exciting thing about this port of Pac-Man is the fact that, it just is a smaller screen, smaller like aspect ratio, but you know, it's pretty arcade accurate. I think it's just an emulation of the arcade game, but you know, it's looks and sounds pretty good, but just this emulation doesn't really do it justice. Playing on real hardware, it's way better. It's not like it's flickery and like jittery, but still pretty good. And this collection is worth getting just for all the cool extras as well in all the other games. Alright, we're done, I think. No more. There's other versions I could talk about, like the Neo Geo Pocket Color version. There's like a ZX Spectrum version as well, and there's like all like the other ports. But I'm not gonna. This video is already long enough. And these are all the ones that I just happen to have on this computer, so we're done. No more. No more Pac-Man for a while. But Miss Pac-Man sounds good right about now.